This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's shows. We're excited to have you be a part of the Note Closers Show podcast and rocking and rolling. I'm joining you live from Southern California today. I'm actually out here a couple of days before the upcoming Distressed Mortgage Expo that's taking place in Orange County. So excited to be out here hanging out with a couple of hundred other note investors. But one guy on the photo, one guy's gonna be missing in action this weekend because we're on an opposite coast than he normally is, and that's my good buddy Bill McCafferty. Good morning, Bill. You there, buddy?
Good morning, Scott. How are you doing today, buddy?
I am doing great. You are a busy man. You got little ones. You've out rocking and rolling, closing deals, making things happen. We're excited to have you, bud.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. I look forward to sharing my experience and, what I know about the business and what has happened over my life in the last 10 years and, how powerful real estate is. And really looking forward to diving into it today with you, bud.
Yeah, man, we're definitely excited to have it. So everybody knows that I love first liens and stuff like that. But there's always, what's so beautiful about this business is there's so many niches. And I honestly think you're the most under-known guy in the note space because you do a good job of chilling in the background, closing deals, making things happen. So why don't you, for those that don't know who you are and that are listening here on Facebook Live, if you're listening live and you have questions for Phil, feel free to post those in the Facebook comments. And for those that are listening on iTunes and Stitcher, stuff like that, Bill, tell us who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. I'm Bill McCafferty. I'm a 43-year-old father and husband. I have two kids. I've been married 17 years. Back in 2006, I was working at a school, taking care of athletic fields, and just kind of needed more out of life. Saw some info commercials about real estate, and just really got my mind spinning. So in 2006, I dove into local real estate investment groups. And I really wanted to go out and find out, how all these people were making money in real estate. Leading up to that, I was, a little bit of a savvy guy with, just saving money and doing certain things, but never really pierced the real estate market. So in 2007, I was in the right place at the right time with a local group of investors that were very successful in all facets of real estate. But they were coming together and they were pursuing delinquent second mortgage notes. And this was about 2007, 2008. From 06 to 08, I didn't have the best experience with real estate, bought some stuff, attempted some rehabs, actually attempted property stuff up until about 2011. And I actually only own one rental right now in my own primary. I actually owned 14 houses before I discovered the world of notes, what it could really do for me. So in 2011, I left my full-time job to pursue this thing full-time. I was in a partnership for about 2 years. But since 2013, I've been on my own. And what the power of an individual like me is, not only do I offer a service of an asset manager, but I do this in my own portfolio. And that's what my portfolio is. So I call it the double dose. I can bring that experience into my own portfolio. And I've managed about 500. I think I have all my numbers, man. I think you'd be real impressed if you looked at my numbers on spreadsheets and my data. I've worked 567 of these files.
That is impressive. So, all seconds?
All seconds, brother.
Nice.
So, if one individual hires me to work a few assets and they're new to the business, they're getting all that experience that I've already encountered with all these other clients and my asset management company. So to fast forward where we are today, I work for myself. I work out of my house. I have two companies, the asset management company that we're going to talk mostly about because that's my service. And I do the same thing, like I said, in my own portfolio. But I have People's Debt Relief Solutions, which was actually my original company. And that's my asset. So what People's Mortgage Relief 2 LLC really does is they offer an asset management service to investors. And we can talk about that and go into more detail. But just wanted to give you a gist of who I am and what I'm doing. And I think the big power of me is I have the real numbers, and I'm not working for a big hedge fund, and I don't have a lot of money backing me. Those 567 files, I have no money in the deals.
It's all other people's money that's helped you take that stuff down, correct?
You know what it is? My service is I'm a 1099 contracted asset manager. They buy the asset, they pay for servicing, they pay for legal. They either like my system or they don't. And we, don't do business with everybody. I'm very aggressive in this space. I believe it's a true numbers game more than anything. Mm-hmm. And, I know we were going a little bit in a post the other day, and I know where you were going with the seconds, and it's getting tougher out there. And when it is a true numbers game, you have to know what you're up to and what you're looking for.
Well, and that's what's so beautiful about the note space is there's so many little different niches. And what I love when I'm visiting with you and talking with you is I know you're doing the deals. I know you're running 500 files. You're doing a variety of different things. You're phenomenal when it comes to that, Bill. Got a lot of respect for somebody who's done that many files and it's carved out their niche. And there are some differences between first and seconds. Let's talk about some of those differences. And that'll be a good kind of a starting point for a lot of that stuff. So seconds, you definitely is a numbers game. It's like what you just said, correct? You want to talk a little about that? Some experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the main reasons I dove into the seconds early on was it was definitely a price point entry, availability. And with it being a lower price point entry, you realize that it was a numbers game sooner than later. So what I mean by a true numbers game is you just have to put yourself in a very good position when you're buying an asset with your due diligence. But with the seconds, you can really overanalyze these things because some of the exits you just will not see in any of the due diligence. And we can talk more about that, how I kind of force people to pick exits and I kind of funnel them down the path and just guide them out and get paid. Mm-hmm. So to backpedal a little bit, what was the exact question? I'm sorry, Scott.
Let's talk about seconds. You said it's a numbers game. And yes, it's a cheaper price because you're buying a second lien, which is usually smaller UPB than a first. But let's talk about that. So, what's a numbers game?
Yeah, so I always say it's when you buy seconds, it's a 3-year play. Everywhere from buying one non-performing second to buying 10 non-performing seconds. It's a numbers game everywhere from getting them worked out to getting a performing asset. And you can see, a lot of the funds do 3 years, and that's kind of why. It takes a little bit to turn. Sometimes you can turn things a few times, and it just makes the system work better. So one thing I found out early on is how to get the emotion out of the deal. And what I mean by the emotion is I'm dealing with investors that have capital in. I'm dealing with stressful homeowners. I'm dealing with attorneys that know what they're doing but don't know what we're up to. So I've learned how to kind of manage all that to get paid. And one of the things I realized is it's definitely a true numbers game. So as I track my data, I find out that, deals where there's no equity in it, you're still getting a really good deal done. Whereas maybe a deal with equity in it, you're not getting a great deal done. And we get tied up on so many variables that just don't get you paid and make you spin your wheels. So when I say it's a true numbers game, I absolutely look at it as a numbers game and I make my decision based off that. I build portfolios. So if you give me 5 notes, I got to make my decision based off those 5 assets, nothing else. I don't care if you give me 10 seconds and say, Bill, I have all the money in the world backing these, go to town. It doesn't matter. I'm making my decisions based off those 10 assets. So, you know, what I mean by that is I always say, you know, a homeowner that comes out when I'm getting nothing done will get a great deal. A homeowner that comes out when I got a lot of activity, I know how to play my game, and I'm going to stretch them out and get a better deal. As much as I can take the emotion out of it, I also see when I start getting a little emotional sometimes. And you just look at the factors, and the factors say, all right, there's 2 deals going on. They're getting good deals. You got 20 deals going on. It's not that they're not going to get a good deal. It's a game of patience with this numbers game. And it really does test your patience. So, you know, some of these deals that take 2 to 3 years to get done, they're the best assets that will come out and being a reperforming asset for the long run. Mm-hmm. We jump into this space and think stuff in 6 to 12 months are going to be these humongous paydays that will carry us for the next 30 years. And you just kind of build it. So, you know, some of these ones that come out early on, maybe you take a discounted payoff, and it's more to put your other assets in a better position to get to the finish line. So I do a lot of that. So as much as I manage assets, I do take pride in building portfolios for people. And it's a numbers game. So the more numbers you have, the better and easier it is for you to make decisions on bankruptcy, on short sales. So
let's
I hope I hit that with the numbers game.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of that stuff. So if you're buying, let's say funding 10 notes, because I think the biggest thing is when you're buying seconds, as you said, you're probably not going to have a lot. You're not going to have 100% that get worked out immediately. It's you got to put some time into it. What are some of those factors that will kind of drag the deal out some, Bill?
Absolutely. One thing I do a real good job of is putting everything down my system and processes and really taking that emotion out and allowing my system to let us know where we're going to go on the deal. So, you know, just some things that happen pretty quick and up front when I board a file, I'm making sure the collateral is 100% uptight, and we're taking care of that early on. Most investors go wrong there. They point fingers and they play the blame game instead of just getting it fixed. That's the most important. Like, we're chasing homeowners right off the bat. I don't chase them. They come to me eventually. That's what my process does. It makes them come to me when they need me, and I just get the deal done because they need me, and I know they need me at that time, and I know this business is real. So in that first like 45 to 60 days of me actually boarding a file and working a file, I want to make sure the collateral's good. I have all my stuff boarded. I have it with a servicer. I have it over with my attorney who's sending out a 30-day demand letter. I'm not even hesitating. Everybody fears the word foreclosure and sheriff sales. That is a very common word in my business. I love it. Sheriff sales mean I'm getting paid somehow. I actually like looking at my calendar on a monthly basis and seeing 3 to 5 sheriff sales coming up. And if I look at my calendar and I don't see that, I need to work my systems to fill my pipeline. It's a very clear vision there. So after 60 days, at the end of that demand letter, we have a real good idea of what the status of the first is, if there's any other things going on that we didn't realize, because now we're on title. We sent out our letters. Attorney sent out a demand letter. Maybe we find out the property's vacant. Maybe we find out there's a family member. We can then make our decision based off the information we found and not all this stuff that we're thinking about, you know, real estate numbers like flipping a property. It took me a long time to comprehend what it really means to exit a no equity deal through the borrower and fully get paid off by it. So that's kind of where I go. And with my asset management company, I have to relay the information to the client and let them make a good decision. But I'm very active on this legal process, and I do push it just because I have the data and the numbers to back it up. But everybody's different. And like you said, you give me 10 notes, you might not be able to press 10 right off the bat. So, you know, fast forward my 60 days on all 10 files, you and I are just going down making decisions where we want to go with everything. There's one thing I do, I know my exits, but I don't pick my exit before the deal. You give me a delinquent second, I'm going to get us paid off it, or it may blow up and it might not get us paid, but I'm going to find out. I will guarantee I find out if you let me spend the money. So with those 10s, we may decide we're pressing forward on 6 of them, and 4 of them we're not pressing forward on for whatever reason. Maybe the first is out in front foreclosing and we don't want to play that game. We're going to let that pan out and see what happens, because maybe the first does get modified and it comes back into play as a good second. Maybe the first makes them file bankruptcy. Now we're in play. There's a golden nugget for you right now. Everybody's missing out on those. There's a lot of delinquent seconds where the first is banged up and they're moving forward on foreclosure and everybody's scared of those, and there's equity in there. Buy those things, man. Them homeowners are filing bankruptcy, and those Chapter 13 delinquent seconds that did not look good are now good because you're covered with the equity. And in like a state New York, it may take me $9,000 to foreclose. And on a deal like that, maybe I find out in the first like 90 days that I'm now included in a bankruptcy plan and I bought a very cheap asset.
Right. That's where I think that's a great nugget there, Bill, because a lot of people, you know, they're listening to other people that talk about how, hey, don't buy seconds behind non-performing first, right? You always want to buy second behind a performing first because you don't want to get wiped out in foreclosure. And that's not always the case based on what you just said, correct?
Absolutely. And it's not like you want to go buy 10 loans where the first are out in front in foreclosure and play that game. It's, you know, you're making decisions as you're moving forward on these things in real time based off, you know, your portfolio and what else is going on. Absolutely, brother.
Yeah. And that's just those 10 due diligence on this to make sure that you've got the equity in there so that there is that flexibility, because equity is a funny thing that borrowers have. You know, sometimes they think they've got it when they don't necessarily have it, right? But if they've got equity, they're going to fight that foreclosure because they think they're due that. And now if it's a different story, if they're over encumbered, they owe a lot more than the property's worth, correct?
Absolutely. And that is why it's so important to remember, as you and I are sitting here talking, that majority of my exits are through the borrower. Because what I have found out is a very big misconception in this country is people with no equity don't have any money.
Right.
How about this? People that are over leveraged on their property with a delinquent second don't have any money. Absolutely, it is so false. And that's what I have done with my systems and processes. I take myself out of it completely and I force the hand. And that is kind of when I have 3 buckets that these things fall. They're going bankruptcy, they're going to pay me, or they're going to make me get the keys / sell the house with them somehow. And early on in this business, I had no idea how to handle bankruptcy, and I had no idea how to handle when they gave me the keys. It was all about that first one of getting the normal workout, payoff. And after a while, I found out that was easy. That was the easy part of the business. They were always going to happen. Mm-hmm. And early on with the current first, those numbers were like probably 60 to 70% worked out with the current first. And as I moved forward, I started managing a lot of different assets. So my numbers from like 2014 on have consisted of a wide variety. So I don't really track that data anymore exactly. But at the end of the day, I always say, like, if you buy 3 delinquent seconds, this is actually what will happen and what you want to happen. One's going to work out normal. One, you're going to get a huge education piece off of and make some money off it. And the other one, you might get wiped, and you're going to write that off, and that's business. And I lose out on deals all the time. They go to the bottom of my spreadsheet. I don't think twice about them. I made my decision, and I move on. I've learned how to cut the emotion on my own deals real fast and And that's what I liked about this numbers game and the price point entry. If I'm 12 grand in a deal, it's not that I want to walk away from 12 grand, but it's easier to shut a 12 grand deal down and put my 10 grand into another deal instead of trying to fix the 12 grand deal. Because the 12 grand deal could work out at some time and come back into my favor, or I get wiped, and then I'm going to, write off my expenses and my deals. Mm-hmm. So that's it. So the other two buckets are where I really have learned and made some really good money in the last 3 or 4 years is the bankruptcy and the whole short sale giving me avenue. But no doubt, if the equity's there, the investor's more comfortable, and at the end of the day that if you truly have to liquidate, the numbers are there. But the reality in this business is when you're a second, even when I foreclose on a property, I foreclose subject to a first mortgage. I can't just go walk in that house. I still have to evict somebody and get possession of it. And I found out there's a whole world of paydays in between the sheriff's sale and me locking somebody out of their house. I call it post sale. I foreclosed on 83 houses, and my post sale numbers, 45 of those have been resolved in some type of payoff, or we rescinded the sale, or I recreated a new mortgage and note. However, 45 of those are paydays moving forward, where we got paid off. I have been bought out. This is a cool number. I've been bought out at 10 of these sales by a third party. So my numbers now tell me that when I get the sheriff's sale, 1 out of 8, I'm going to get bought out. So those are the numbers that I share with clients and investors because that's what I make my decision on. And I'm very thankful and blessed to be put in the position to get those numbers and create those and track them. One thing my mentors told me early on is the numbers don't lie and the data will tell you where you're going. And I've tracked and tracked. I'm an Excel freak. And I just, that's kind of the deal. There's a lot of money to be made with short sales. There's a lot of money to be made in bankruptcy, but it becomes a game of patience and learning not to waste money in some of the avenues where, like a first mortgage, when you're in bankruptcy, and they're not dealing with you guys, you want to file, relief from the stay and be able to go after the property. You get a lot of respect as a first. As a delinquent second, you don't get much respect if you're going in looking for relief from the stay. And one of my good experiences early on was some investors throughout the country that hired me that worked for that were students of another educator in our business. Were actually sent to me, and I managed their files. And later on, I found out like I was a little bit of a test. But what was cool with these two guys is they put so much trust into me, manager delinquent seconds, but they were seasoned, skilled investors. So I gained so much knowledge just through my clients. And I have plenty of clients that I'm a little bit of a mentor for now. So it kind of goes both ways. And that's kind of how I built this thing through my clients teaching me and, me teaching them. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little about that. Some of the numbers. You got some great numbers. I love it that you keep track of stuff. You're an Excel wizard like me, man. But the numbers don't lie. So let's go the route and ask a quick question because I know we got Peggy Sue on here. Peggy Sue Mitchell, who's a realtor and dealt with so many short sales. And that's really one of the things I got involved with early on was the short sale side and flip the paper thing. Is what do you see the average payoff being on your short sales? I know it varies, obviously, depending if there's equity or no equity, stuff like that. If there's equity, I'm willing to bet you get almost close to full payoff. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, in order for me to get a short sale done, it all has to start with my system and me letting them pick that bucket, and then we go down the path. So let's just say a homeowner comes to me and they already have somebody in place that's handling the sale of the property, a broker, a realtor, whoever, an attorney. That's all good. I want contact with them. Mm-hmm. If they don't have anybody, I make suggestions And if I have anybody in my network that are in locations, which I do, I kind of funnel them in that direction. But at the same time, I don't like to know the person on the other side, because how I get paid is being a little bit of a strong armor at the end of the day. So when a first mortgage is accepting less than what they're owed on the short sale, they are going to dictate what my second gets off of the settlement sheet, absolutely all day long. And it took me years to figure out that I can't pierce that, and I tried to pierce it. Other people may tell you you can pierce it, but it's a waste of time. It's all about technique and strategy. So I'm getting anywhere from $2,000 to $15K off the settlement sheet is the most I've ever seen from a second.
What's that as far as a percentage of owed though, Bill? 5, 10, 15%?
Right there. What you just said, 5 to 10.
Okay.
With a 15 cap.
Okay.
And I've seen crazy stuff. Like I've seen a $90,000 house in Florida be sold, and we got 12 grand. You know, I've seen $700,000 houses sell, and they're giving us problems trying to give us 8 grand. So it's wild how it works. So as I maneuver through a short sale, I position myself. I play like little guy in a big company, like, hey, we're going to work with you. I just, at the end of the day, need to see that settlement sheet to get final approval. We're going to move, a lot of these we're moving forward with foreclosure on, and that's why we're either forcing the hand, or the first is, or we both are. So when that first is getting less than what they're owed, I got no say anywhere else. So if a first is getting a full payoff, I can play the game as hard as I want with what's left. Commission, anything. I mean, it's all open. But what I like is actually a lot of these, there's no equity. The first is accepting less. And a lot of people put work into this to get this done. So from my end, you know, I gave you the Florida example where it was $12,000 on that 90. So when I'm looking at commission on something like that, realtors aren't getting a lot. So like on a deal like that, when I show you my little technique and strategy that I do, I didn't feel right doing it on that. Like the homeowners weren't getting any money. Realtors were getting a small commission. I like that $300 to like $1 million short sale range. And as we get above there, what I do is play the role of, yep, I know I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this, try to get me to 15. And everything gets approved. And they got a set of closing out 30 days. And they come to me and say, Bill, I got it approved. Here it is. Everybody's ready to go. You know, and I see 30K of commission. I see a homeowner getting 10K to walk. And I'm getting, you know, 12K off the settlement sheet. So instead of like blaming people, I got a pretty carbon copy email down. And I have 2 agreements. One's called a short sale agreement, and one's called a pay down agreement. And we need to pay down my lien. Pick your number, brother, whatever you want. Whatever you want. You got to pay my lien down $1,000 or $20,000 before I sign off on the short sale. I'm out of the transaction. It's very uncomfortable, but that's why I love email in this business. I place that in front of the decision maker. It's all about the decision maker.
So that's,
and what my email says is,
go ahead, Bill. Sorry.
No, what my email says is, hey, I know all the rules. I know all the regulations. I understand everything. I'm not looking to gouge anybody's commission, but you're getting a good commission on a deal. We're agreeing. A homeowner's walking away from everything with some money. There's an end buyer that's getting a great deal. This has to happen. And like I said, I call it a pay down agreement. It's another one-pager that I sign. It doesn't go to closing. It's totally out of the transaction. New realtors and brokers get real nervous, but the experienced ones get it. And you give them the wire information, and like, I don't even talk to them, dude. Like, I don't even want to be on the phone. I don't want to email, nothing. Here it is. Here's my wire information. If you want me to sign off on the short sale, you know, 10 grand will end up in my bank account in the next 30 days. And it's an amazing thing. It happens a lot, brother.
Especially on those higher ones. You're basically playing a point where the motivation to get paid in 30 days outweighs the pain of not getting paid or paying you an extra 3, 5, 10 grand, whatever it is, and you don't care where that money comes from or whose pocket it comes from. It just ends it comes from the realtor commission, or it comes from the borrowers who's walking with some cash for keys or stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. And it's better that they get something instead of nothing, correct?
You got it, brother. So on deals like that, to build a portfolio and be smart, we're looking to get our money out, make some money. In my asset management company, I get a $500 administration short sale fee if my client doesn't get all his money out. So, I try to at least get the money out, get my fee, and move on and be smart. So I'm not looking to gouge people. I usually go between that 1,000 and 10 grand on my pay down. If I'm getting 12 or 15 and I can get another 5 or 10, that's a slam dunk.
Right.
Now, you
don't get what you don't ask for, right? That's your free dessert you're basically asking for.
You got it, brother. I got that nugget about 3 years ago, and that has really changed my portfolio, my client's portfolio, because it's what I told you a little while ago with those bankruptcies. Like, if I'm in a second mortgage deal at 5 to 10 grand, and I'm not even pressing legal, and all of a sudden I'm being asked to do a short sale, oh my gosh, dude, I'm doubling my money all day long.
Mm-hmm. And that's the good thing about bankruptcies. Once somebody's filed, you can pull all that information off of pacer.gov. I mean, it's a treasure trove of information, not only on the asset, but on the borrower itself, correct?
100%, brother. And, Bill McCafferty has stuff sitting in his LLC and his IRAs that are just that, waiting for a short sale call or a bankruptcy. And I'm not pressing them. Like, as aggressive as I am with legal, IRAs are a whole different ball game in my space. It's a true numbers game. So, you may be successful on 50 notes in an LLC, and then you buy 5 in your IRA and it doesn't go right. And now you lost money in your IRA. And if you left those 5 with the 50, you'd still be fine.
Mm-hmm. Right. But let's talk about that. I'm glad you're bringing it up, because we were exchanging messages back and forth and how you're funding out IRAs and getting deals done there. And you don't mind putting a few notes in an IRA that's going to last a while, because you can't really touch that money personally anyway. You don't mind if the file sits there for a year, 2 years, 3 years or more, while either the value's coming back, and then your note that you bought maybe had 0 equity, now starting to get paid off based on the equity growth of the property, correct?
All day long, man. This business pays and it's real. So I buy a lot of debt. I'm either working it or I'm sitting on it. I have 3 main buckets. My one bucket is my company, and I'm very aggressive on legal, like we're talking about. And when I left my job in 2011, one of my main goals was to get all my money away from everyone else. So I did a few rollovers that ended up in my own self-directed IRA with Camaplan, which is in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And then even a year later, I took a pension buyout from my old employer that I was at for 15 years and rolled that into the IRA. So that bucket became my second go around, because I had the experience, but I also realized, like, you can't get crazy aggressive with legal. So I was looking for more good deals with reperformers. Maybe buying some junk seconds just to let them sit there and see what happens. And like you said, this is an active business. Everything changes. So something bad right now may be good later on. And then in 2015, my wife left her job, and we did the same thing. I took a 403B and rolled it over into Camaplan self-directed. And then the same thing. I took her pension and put it into Camaplan. So I control my whole dashboard. The only thing I don't control is I have about like 70 grand in the stock market with Northwestern Mutual, who is a pretty decent company. And my financial guy, I do trust him. But I don't put any more in there. That was already created in the stock market, and I don't put any more in it. He has it. He gets it. He knows what I'm up to. And you're in the right business when your financial advisor tells you at the end of the year, it's better that you put your money in your self-directed accounts and keep buying what you're doing than to give it to him to go put in the market.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
So the coolest, so one of the coolest and the most proud things I am is this last bucket. And and it's my years of experience, and it's my wife putting a lot of trust in me with her retirement amount. But I was able to take a certain amount and double it just on my purchase price. And they were all, they were 5 reperforming assets. So I 50 cents on the dollar, and now I'm getting paid, whatever that is. I mean, the return, everything is beautiful. And I call that the Cadillac. And what the Cadillac does is the Cadillac will get 5 assets, and then it's going to sell 2 partials, because those 2 partials are going to help me buy 5 more assets. And I'm not going to leverage myself crazy. They're small seconds. A partial on a second may be 10 to 20 grand. And they're nice. You can pay them back in 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And there's a whole business right there amongst investors that are struggling to do things amongst themselves, trying to compete. Stick together, man. I mean, we're selling partials to each other. Maybe I'm about to go buy an asset, and my client one of my friends know that, and they're looking for a partial, and we just kind of, nobody's taking offense that I'm getting a good deal. They're teaming up with me, and they're taking it down with me, and they're getting the first 4 or 5 years of payments, and I'm getting the rest of it.
And that's the beautiful thing about the note industry. Would you agree to that? I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Bill, but that's the beautiful thing about the note industry. It's a lot more of co-opetition, right? People working together, but they're all competing to get the good returns. But sometimes it works better just to work with people versus working against them.
100%, brother. That's why you and I are on the phone today. I take a lot of pride in my name out in this marketplace. There's a lot of crazy things that happen in this second space. I stomach a lot. And I'm very thankful that I've learned how to limit the risk with my strategy, and I know it's real. But, an investor gives me 4 or 5 notes, and you kind of know they went out on the line to buy those assets. And now I'm 14 months and I don't have any money coming in for them. And I know it's coming, but, they're starting to question it and get nervous. So that's why I always say it's just about building a portfolio. So, even though you bought 5 notes and in a year and a half, nothing worked out, sell 2 of them and just stay the course. Mm-hmm. Don't get nervous. Somebody might say, Bill, why are you selling a non-performing note? I mean, this is your niche, because this is the asset I need to move right now. I got windows I got to put in my rental property. Yeah, don't ever do that. Don't ever buy a rental property with 17 windows. What the hell was I thinking, dude? So I got to sell a non-performing note just to make that happen. It's all good, but that's what I like about the note business. I never looked at somebody and said, oh, why are you selling this? It's always about their needs. I found out early on the hedge funds need to sell to carry their money. They may have an average of legal fees, but it's because they're selling everything and working a handful. They're not doing what I'm doing. They're not getting the bottom of the barrel. I mean, that's what I've learned to make my money on over the last 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm. We should create a movie called Note Dogs instead of War Dogs, like the movie talks about with the guy says, hey, I make money off the crumbs in the middle. And there's a lot of crumbs, right, brother?
Absolutely, brother. And the best part is I'm in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
So I got a client that may need to, the coolest thing that I found out about this business, I'm in the middle of 70 clients. All their bad experiences happened outside the note business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's anytime they're successful within the note business, they got to pull it out to clean up the outside. And, maybe I'm there to buy a reperformer, or maybe I'm there to shift the asset to another client so I can keep working it and make sure my client gets a fair deal. So I guess that's the power too, that I didn't go to build that. It just all happened. And one day I realized, holy crap, you're in the middle of all this stuff. So it's pretty powerful to take advantage of that.
Right. I get a lot of people that come to me looking for seconds. Where are you finding the majority of your second deals? I mean, obviously you've got some stuff like you just said, you've got a network and you're in the middle building those relationships between back and forth. But outside of that, where else are you seeing deals? Are you dealing with a lot of hedge funds? Are you dealing directly with banks and seconds? Where are you seeing the vast majority of your inventory these days?
Nah, no doubt, man. It's definitely a relationship business. The days of calling somebody up and looking for a spreadsheet and thinking that you're going to have time to look at it and do whatever you want is over. Right now, in a little bit of a network where, you know, some of these funds or maybe some of the educators do drop a spreadsheet out, and you just have to be ready. Maybe there's 50 notes on it, and, you know, there's a lot of people looking at it, and you got to start thinking about the stuff I'm telling you, because I'm telling you, majority of the people aren't looking at it. Mm-hmm. So from my end, you know, I position myself around the hedge funds that are kind of in the education, real estate industry, plus some other smaller ones that are kind of in my business that, you know, all of a sudden I realized, wow, they got a lot of stuff in my business because I'm seeing their names on assignments. That's big in the second space, assignments. So I'm always looking at assignments to see who's active and where it's coming from, and who stamped it. Yeah, you'll like this, dude. I actually just about 6 months ago got a second mortgage note done, deal done in Indiana, no equity, Chapter 7 discharge, 7 assignments in the chain. Only one of them was recorded. Everybody in our business touched it. And 17 months later, I got $15K up front, and we got a real nice performing asset moving forward.
Nice. Nice. There's 2 nuggets to that one. One you just said, but the second spot is something that I've shared with people as well, because everybody comes looking not only just for seconds, but they're also looking for first source. Where can I buy sources from? I'm like, just go run a search for assignment on mortgages in your local county or popular counties, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, from my end, you know, I'm not looking to push anybody's name or anything or any of the educators, but, you know, you position yourself around, you know, guys maybe like a Fu Quan, and when he's ready to release them, or a guy like Sherman, when he's ready to release them. You know, my ex-partners, they're not in the education industry, but they're investors. And even as they shift out of this marketplace, they also understand the need and the power of this stuff. So, you know, it's Silver Bay, it's Joe's company, Silver Bay Capital, Joe Robert, Lindsay Gordon, not looking to promote anybody, but, you know, they're my ex-partners. And, you know, kind of what you were saying a little bit ago about this second business, you know, when the 3 of us separated as a partnership, everybody thought like, you know, something crazy was going on. Like, nah, Joe and I were real good friends. Like, we looked at each other and realized the power of this thing. And he understood I wanted to go home with my family, and I was an older guy, and I kind of knew my niche and what I could make my money on. And, you know, they were young investors, no kids, real motivated. So when I left, it was like we just utilized each other. People were looking for notes. You know, these guys have assets. So just trying to position myself like that. I know they have some seconds right now. You know, I know, you know, PPR releasing seconds. So you just have to be there and look at it and learn what not to look at. It's an information-based business. The credit report is very important, but you could talk yourself out of every single second deal by looking at the credit report.
Why is that?
Because you don't know if Bob's next door neighbor has money, and when he goes over and asks him for the 40 grand because you're about to take his house and he gets it, they're the ideas that I put in homeowners' heads. You know, a Pennsylvania deal, the guy's an auto mechanic. He's been at the same place for 25 years. Same boss, it's his friend. Dude, you got to go ask that guy to either pay it off or buy the second. So it's just giving people ideas like, yeah, there was no equity in his property. Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of money. He's an auto mechanic. But it was just giving him the ideas. And that's the stuff you don't see on the credit report. And people are very, very funny when the game of chicken is pressed on them. So, you know, an example is I just got a $62K payoff out of New York in 9 months. Legal pressing, you know, and legal's expensive. It was, you know, me convincing my investor to spend $9,500. Not only in convince my investor to spend $9,500, also convince him that, you know, another asset manager that worked it without legal for 2 years. You know, I hear all those stories, but I don't want to hear them because there was no legal movement, and everybody's going to jerk your chain without pressure. So it was funny to watch over the course of the 9 months, this guy come out and me hearing all this stuff about how bad he was. And he's like just talking real nice to me, like thanking God, thanking me. And yeah, he played his little games with me, but I controlled him. And, you know, $62K payday. And, you know, if I didn't have legal going, yeah, it was a New Yorker and he would have definitely just shystered me and talked me away. And there's no way I would have got that from him.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a very important nugget that everybody should, that's listening to this or watching this. It's always good, whether it's first or seconds, it's good to press the legal most of the time. I mean, I understand it's a little bit different than seconds, but especially with the firsts, hey, borrowers will drag things out as best they can unless you keep that foot to the fire. And sometimes, hey, just have an attorney start stuff and force that, puts the pressure enough on, so it's not longer, oh, this is my friend. Oh, no, this is my bank. I got to do something. Right, Bill?
100%, brother. And there's only 2 states that I make my decision on legal off of equity in the property rather than other variables. New York and Illinois are the only 2 states that I make a business decision because they're very expensive. And a guy like me, I had 4 Illinois notes and all 4 of them filed Chapter 13 and stripped my lien. So it's like, you know, we can talk a little bit about that too. That's the worst scenario. Is the second, you know, getting stripped in a Chapter 13 is the worst scenario. Or getting wiped out by the first, are the 2 scenarios where I say the deal's done. So a lot of people will say, you know, is this a good or bad deal? I have no idea, dude. Like a second's not a bad deal until it's white. But seconds are all about the purchase price, dude, like we've always talked about. No different than what you're doing with the first. But it's so much more. And even as the mark shifts, you gotta stand firm with, you know, kind of what price you're comfortable with. And, you know, I know some investors out there that are very successful in the second space. And will pay, you know, 50, 60, 70 cents on the dollar for a second covered in equity because they got the skill and they know exactly what they're doing and they have the capital. So you just have to be comfortable with what you're up to. And that's kind of what I said in my message the other day. Like, I see all this and, you know, does Bill McCafferty know what he could do if he went out and raised $1 million from people? Yeah, but I know I got to pay it and I don't want that. So I found a nice little comfortability in this whole thing of slow and steady. And, you know, even my ex-partner, Joe, good friends with him, he's always, you know, pushing me a little bit, which is a good thing. But I always remind him, I'm just slow and steady sometimes, man. It allows you to make good decisions. Like, even when I'm ready to buy, it's not that I back off, but I kind of slow it down for like a 15 to 20 day period just to see if anything funny happens. And people might say, what's he doing? Or what are they doing? And it's like, whatever, man. I'm not jerking anybody's chain around. I'm just letting it progress and, you know, do business the correct way.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about that stripping aspect of that. And we're not talking about somebody pole dancing, taking the clothes off. Let's talk about what happens in New York and New Jersey when it gets stripped in a BK Chapter 13. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Just a quick refresher. We got 2 bankruptcies. We have a Chapter 7, which is a discharge. Homeowner files Chapter 7. 3 or 4 months later, all their unsecured debt and all their secured debt gets discharged from them. They no longer owe the money. So a Chapter 7 borrower is not personally liable for the lien anymore. One thing that I found out and I love is Chapter 7s, because there's a lot of them in this space that have already happened and will continue to happen. And I think Chapter 7s put homeowners in a great spot. Whereas when we talk about 13, it's freaking disgusting what goes on because it's about the attorneys and the courts over there. So Chapter 7, it's a great thing for a homeowner to do that. But if they want to stay in the property, they do need to address the liens because the secured liens do stay on the property. So my whole approach to this business, I think you'll like this, Scott, is all my paperwork, all my documents, the way I talk to homeowners, I never tell them they owe the money. It's always about the lien on the property. And I don't even worry about who's in there. I will find out who's in there. But, you know, with these, you got divorces, you got people getting remarried, you got family members. I don't care who's in there. whoever's going to pay on my agreement will sign it because it references the original mortgage and note. And it's a lien on the property. And I'm not telling you you're personally liable. If you want to walk away, that's great. Majority of them won't because it's like a free loan, basically. So that's Chapter 7. Now, Chapter 13 is reorganization of debt. Now, in my space, the reality of Chapter 13 is a homeowner is most likely doing it because they're going to try to strip your lien. A normal Chapter 13, if there's equity in the property, your second should be included in the plan. You know, bankruptcy plans last for 3 to 5 years. And even when the bankruptcy plan's done, doesn't mean they're done with the debt. They still owe the money, but they're addressing the debt. They're reorganizing their debt for the 3 to 5 years so they can get back on track. Now, in our scenario, you got attorneys and homeowners realize that a Chapter 13, and it probably costs about $2,500 for a homeowner to file, that they can strip my second mortgage because there's no equity in the property. So just on a quick note, some quick numbers. Let's just say a house is worth 100. First mortgage is worth 100. Same value of the house, first mortgage, $50,000 second. There's no equity above the value of the house. I have a right to fight that if I want to, but how that actually goes down is when a homeowner files Chapter 13, it takes about 3 to 4 months for the whole plan and exactly what's going on to develop. So here's another nugget for everybody. If your homeowner files Chapter 13 and you own a second, don't act like you got to wake up the next day and figure this thing out. Like I actually, when one of my borrowers file it, I don't check Pacer for 2 weeks.
Right.
I'm not wasting my time. And even sometimes when you go in 2 weeks, you might not get the info. Same thing with a proof of claim. I'm not getting crazy on filing that because I just want to kind of see what's happening. And some of these homeowners may fall out right away. So what they're going to do is they'll file a motion to strip my lien. And the court will set a hearing for that. They have the right to bring in an appraisal or any proof that they have of the value of the house. And I can do the same thing. So early on with this stuff, a lot of my clients wasted money just throwing it at the bankruptcy attorneys, throwing it at the bankruptcy, trying to get us out, trying to prove that there's equity in there. So at this point, you have to make a pretty good business decision on where you want to go with it. So back to the example of, you know, a value of 100, first is 100, and my second's 50. They filed the motion to strip. Court sets a hearing for, 30 days out. We decide that the house is worth 120, 130. Doesn't cover our whole mortgage, but we think there's equity in it, and we want to fight it based off of some quick early research. So we have a right to get an appraisal inside the house and fight that value. Now, what stinks with these appraisals is, they're third independent parties. When I'm looking to get a high appraisal for like a nice house that somebody's living in, and there's a bunch of REOs or investor activity around it, my appraisals are coming in low, and it sucks. So what ends up happening is, let's just say in that scenario, I can't prove it. The courts say, you know what, the house is worth 100, you lose. We're granting the motion to strip. So that homeowner has a 5-year plan. They actually have to complete the bankruptcy plan for the strip to actually happen. So the strip is granted and they're moving down the path, and in 3 years they fall out of their bankruptcy plan. That lien is still valid and they still owe the money.
That's a great point. That's a great point there for you.
The numbers used to be, I think, like, 1 out of 4 actually might have completed the Chapter 13 plan. But I think the landscape has changed in the last 4 years and the numbers are different. And the real numbers are probably saying 1 out of 2. If it's 1 out of 2, if they're addressing the first, you know what I mean? Like if they're taking ownership on the first, it's only a small second that they're looking to not deal with. So that's where I make business decisions. So like on a deal like that, if we really thought the value was 100 or 110, I probably would not have spent any more money but following my proof of claim on my own and just watching what happens with the bankruptcy. I put it on my spreadsheet and I follow it. Now, if we did fight it and we prove that there's 130 in it, the judge could say, you know what, you owe the whole 50 or you only owe 30. Now, here's a cool nugget for you. Let's just say the house is worth 115 and, you know, they're trying to tell you, you know, whatever, it's worth 100, 105. The judge sees the value, sees the first mortgage. I've had judges do this. You guys get out of here and try to figure it out on your own before I cram or start stripping and see if you can get something done. Dude, you give me an opposing attorney in this space, I'm getting a deal done, like all day long. It's a matter of me gaining the credibility and playing my little games because they want to get paid and solve problems too.
Right.
You'll find people that don't want to do it, but they definitely do, man. So from that end, you could get a deal done there. A judge could say you're owed 30 grand, you're owed the whole amount. So it just becomes, you know, how important your capital is there to really fight these things, knowing that it's still in your court, that it could come out. And that's what I said earlier. I'd rather just let that take course, go play the game more and see what happens with these. If they fall out, I work them. If they get wiped, I write them off. So that's the Chapter 13 game.
Yeah, it's chapter. And that's a beautiful thing you said with the judges, almost kind of forcing a mod or forcing a settlement of some sort. It's a great thing when that happens, right?
Absolutely. And it seems like with the seconds, the longer, like the judicial states, the more money you spend and the longer you go out on these deals, the better deals they become. Because as much as we're over here being real impatient and nervous and an investor mentality, we're beating people up for 2 or 3 years and not realizing how much stress they're going through and what they're really dealing with. Like if I have a client like call a homeowner a deadbeat in an email or something like real like negative, dude, like I'm all over them. I actually will pick the phone up. Like I don't play that role or game at all. Like there's no deadbeats. Like they're playing the game like we're playing the game. Like everybody keep it in check. Remember what you got it for, where you're at, what you're doing, and there's a real person on the other side. And that's why it's so much about my systems and making them come to me. Because when they come to me, it's me steering the whole ship, but they need me. And, you know, my skill is manipulating people through this whole little game and getting the best deal done for everybody.
Right. Create a true win-win scenario for everybody.
That's it, brother. That's how you get paid in real estate, man. That's the best thing about it. The stock market, there's winners and losers. And in real estate, there's only, you know, good deals are win-win for everybody, man.
Mm-hmm. We got a question from you for you out there. Peggy Sue asked a question. Hey, Bill, do you JV or use private investor money to fund your purchases and workouts?
I have my own company, and I wanted to keep that low expense-wise, meaning investor capital, after I left my company, and really try to utilize my skill to take that capital and continue to build my own portfolio, slow and steady, Scott, like we said. So from my end, I have about 90 grand out against my portfolio. I have 2 collateral assignments, and I have one partial, and then I have the one partial going to my wife's IRA. So I do have about 90 grand of other people's capital. A collateral assignment is basically my second mortgage is the collateral on the collateral assignment. It gets recorded in the county. It clouds title. It's not an ownership document. Let's just say I have a $30,000 second mortgage owed to me. I may be able to do like a $15,000 collateral assignment. Depends on the equity and the comfortability of the investor and everybody else involved. And a collateral assignment, you're borrowing the money and you're doing a promissory note for like a specific amount every month, and then you owe the whole amount back. So on that note, I've had 2 collateral assignments, the same 2 people going since 2007, a 45K and a 35K. And that is what really has allowed me to get where I'm at in my own portfolio, because, you know, you get 1 or 2 deals done with your own capital and start leveraging slow and steady. It's pretty powerful. Mm-hmm. And as I got deeper and realized, you know, I still owe that capital back. I like the concept of partials. just because you know you're putting the money back long term. So yes, that is what I've done. I like 2-year notes with my investors on my collateral assignments. Back in the day, 07, 08, I gave them 15%, and now they get between 10 and 12 from me. And you know what? They're my slam dunk go-to, and they're just passive investors with me. They would go to 8%. Like, I've been making them money since, like I said, 2007. And I've never missed a payment with either of them.
Right. Where do you see the seconds market going? If you had a crystal ball, and based on your experience and what you see going on in the market, Bill, where do you see the second space going?
I mean, it's not going to be the same market that was in 07, 08, 09, and 10. It's just like any business. There's opportunity everywhere. If you really want to make money, it's out there. The days of buying, like a guy like me buying a pool of like 20 seconds, it's really about the network, and there's a lot more money, and it's just like every other facet of real estate. Here comes the main money in Wall Street. How come a guy like Bill McCafferty can make $1 million off this business in 5 years? Like, why can't we do that?
Mm-hmm.
So so I think it's more about the relationship and the network. I still think there's a lot of resetting with these lines of credit that people aren't going to be able to afford. So I don't think it's going to be the 80/20s. I think there's still going to be a lot of that. I just had a line of credit on my primary term out. Went from like $150 a month to like $450 a month. Not a big deal for me, but like, that's $300 a month for somebody is a big deal, man.
Right.
And if you got no equity in the house, you start thinking about, and one avenue I never went after, man, just so I position myself around all these funds is what you guys do. I mean, what do all these banks have still? I have a bank right down here in Coatesville, and I know they gotta have tons of seconds. They were giving them out all in 2000, and I just know the economy around here. And a place like that, they'll bury them in the vault, man, and be scared to death to do anything with them. And when is the time right?
Well,
when is the time right for them to move them?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think everything we see, because we do a lot of research with, using like Distressed Pro, and then also jumping on Lien Guide and tracking stuff. Like I pulled a list the other day. I went on Lien Guide and pulled up second lien investors, and it was a pretty large list of people still providing second liens, second mortgages out to people. And another thing that's been very big, especially in California and other areas where they had a lot of appreciation, is a lot of hard money lenders or mezzanine lenders coming in on seconds, providing seconds for the rehabs and things like that. Well, when the market changes, which I think we all know it's going to change at some point, those are going to still be left out in the wind. And while it's not quite the same, it's not the same market as it was 2007, 8, 9, where for every 5 first liens, there was a first rating at least, 80-20, happen at least 20% of the time. There's those niches out there that I really believe, even though I don't buy seconds unless they're behind my firsts, there is that opportunity out there that people have to dive into. And then you still have the same strategy, same thing that you've been going through on that aspect. You know what I mean? It's just, instead of buying from the major players or buying from the hedge funds out there, I think the bank plays is so much more valuable. And I don't see that many people going after that avenue, even though when I talk to bank managers, they're sweating on this second stuff sitting on their books. And they're just one of the fun. Absolutely. Like one of the funds I know that just took down a pool, it took them a while and they were very active buyers. It's just regulations are tighter. People are scared to do stuff. People know what happened over the last 5 years, and people are getting scrutinized. I mean, they're dissecting the hedge fund that's buying it. I mean, they're not just, oh, you got money? I mean, they're looking into your past, your history. They're pulling 100-page reports on you. So it's game of patience and just knowing it's real and positioning yourself. I mean, that's what this whole thing has become and is about. And it's amazing what, social media and the internet is allowed to do just with the world and this business alone. We didn't even talk about that, but the art of my business is I don't want to talk to the homeowners on the phone. Mm-hmm. And early on, that's what you wanted to do.
they're going to call and we're going to talk, but I'm going to shift it right to email and let them play my game. And I just found out homeowners rather read an email at the end of the day than talk to me at 3 o'clock harassing them at work.
Right.
And, you know, it's a whole different ball game with that. I mean, early on we would call people's work. We would be a little more aggressive with door knocks. You know, my whole system now is I don't really send anybody to the property. I don't harass them. I reach out a little bit, but I truly let the legal, and when they're ready to make a decision, it's time for them to come out.
Right. But I bet you're using a lot more of the social media stuff today too to kind of see what people are doing online. I know we do. We find a lot of information on the borrowers on if they're living in the same property or if they've had a kid or divorce or job loss. Has that helped you get with your due diligence on a lot of your borrowers?
Say that again?
Have you used like Facebook and some of the social media stuff to research your borrowers?
All day long, brother. I use TransUnion. I get the TLL reports, which is basically you can pull like a comprehensive report, but the asset report for like $2 is great. I always say this wherever I'm at to people, and they're just like, they look at me. I'm like, dude, I can pull a 90-page report on you in 2 seconds. Don't piss me off. And like, I'm only joking, but like, I would never abuse my privilege and my business stuff, but absolutely. I mean, I pull that up, and from there, I like email, and I definitely look through social media. Absolutely. I'm not going to attack you on there, but I'm real nosy. You know, even anybody in the business that emails me or sends me a message through LinkedIn or anything, like I'm swooping on them real fast. Like I'm not pulling a report, but I'm swooping just to see the connection, where they came from, who they are. And like you said, I mean, just on social media, you can tell what type of money people have and what they're up to.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely truth. Definitely truth for sure. So what is you got well, I love the fact is you talked early on there, hey, you left your job, you left what you're doing, you get your wife to basically leave her job. What's Bill McCafferty, the individual, doing here? You spend time with your kids, coaching football and things like that, or what are you doing, man, when you're not working?
Nah, I live my life, man. I do exactly what I want to do. I'm all about the cash flow, but the cash flow creates what I want, and it's about financial freedom. It's about security to me, and it's always been about security. You know, Scott and I talked a little bit about this before, but yeah, I could do a whole presentation on life insurance, both term and whole and cash value and the leverage of that. And why I'm building that up is to put back into the note business at some day. It's all coming back into the note business. But a guy like me, I love the flexibility of being at home. I do what I want. I have to get my stuff done. I actually beat myself up during the week sometimes and make myself sit at my desk, just like this morning, Scott, when I wasn't at my desk. But Bill McCafferty, man, I love sports. I have a 14 and 12-year-old. My son is in his 9th year of football right now. He just went into the high school. He has a game today that I'm going to go over to. But one of my crazy true passions is I'm a live music junkie. And I see a lot of live music. I actually just saw my 169th Fish show.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. I was totally getting to that because I know you're a fish freak.
And I just saw my 169 show 2 weeks ago in Colorado. My wife likes them. It's our little getaway. We have other friends that see them. I've been seeing them for 24 years. And it's a little bit of everything. As a business guy, it's an amazing thing to watch 4 individuals create a business like they did and where it's at 33 years later. You know, and as an older guy, I appreciate traveling. A band like Fish gets me around the country. When we were in Colorado, we were right in Denver. We were able to go up in the mountains. But that's my true passion. Very blessed to be able to see the same band for 24 years. But that's what I like to do. I like to have a good time. But I'm a responsible guy. I know when to buckle down and when not to buckle down. But this business is so powerful. Once I learned how to maneuver with the phone, you know, my system is Dropbox and Excel, dude, all day long. Folders, Dropbox, and Excel. I can access any document that I've ever touched in 15 seconds. And it's all about efficiency to live that financial freedom lifestyle. Like, as much as I don't want to sit at my desk, when I do, I call it laser focused daily activity. I know exactly what I need to do for 4 hours. I put the phone off to the side and I just get it done. Because there's a lot of stuff that this business is my life. I could just manage it at Adam's game today, wherever I'm at. Like this morning, I went and I took a walk, and then I gave you a call. It's not like I wasn't working, but I need to let my mind relax. I'm digesting some emails. One thing I've learned to do real well is not answer emails right away. Sometimes the emotions rolling.
Yeah.
But that's who I am, man. I'm a pretty simple guy. I just want good security. My wife and I have our master blueprint and game plan down of where we're going and what we're doing. I have a 14 and 12-year-old, and when they're done, I have a business that I can run from anywhere. So a lot of good things going on, brother.
It definitely is, Bill. Definitely. How can people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about managing a portfolio, bringing you onto their team to help you create win-wins? What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn. Very easy. Scott has my contact information. Everybody in the business knows me. My phone number, my cell phone direct to me is 484-356-4128. 484-356-4128. And my email is mortgagepayhelp@gmail.com. So mortgagepay, P-A-Y, help, H-E-L-P, @gmail.com. Awesome.
Good stuff, Bill. Hey, man, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode here. I know you've got a busy day and you're running around with your kids and having fun, but also making things happen. So thanks for being a part of the show today.
Absolutely, brother, man. Really appreciate it. And always good talking to you, buddy.
Yeah. I got to get, before we wrap it up, I got to tell you this. Matt Kelly's been watching it. A big shout out to Matt there. He says, #verified, #Bill is legit, #crazy but not crazy, # likes fish too much.
Well, before I go, real funny, props to Matt. Matt is an awesome guy.
Yep.
But, there's a perfect example. The reason I have a relationship with Matt, Matt is definitely a friend, but he's also a mentor of mine.
Right.
And it wasn't like I went out and said, Matt, will you be my mentor? I went into a business and created a lot of business for his business. And all of a sudden, the relationship was there and the credibility was there. I wasn't trying to prove it or flaunt it. It was just there, and it just happened, and it was kind of cool. You meet people in the business. It's neat to see what they're doing. Like, Matt's out in California. One of his hobbies, he's a surfer. So, we joke around with each other like that, but it's cool, man. This is what this business allows you to do, live your lifestyle. And it's so cool to see the different people that are in it and interaction. So shout out to Matt Kelly, and I appreciate it, man.
No problem. Well, hey, you go have a good day. Enjoy the football game. Thanks for being a part of the show there, Bill. And I will see you on the East Coast at some point. All right, brother?
Be safe, buddy. Thank you.
Will do. No problem. All right, everyone. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for where we're at today's episode. As always, if you're watching this on iTunes, Stitcher, any other the podcast platforms, make sure to like it, leave a message, give us a review. As always, if you'd like more information on note investing, you can always text the word NOTES, NOTES, to the phone number 72000. For our back catalog of episodes, you can check us out on the podcast as well, or also check out the live video versions at our website, weclosenotes.com. So hopefully go out, make something happen, be like Bill, plan your financial independence plan. Put something in place and then work that plan as you can go. Because trust me, it's a whole lot better to have fun and live life on your own terms than help support somebody else who's not going to support your dreams. So that's all I've got from you guys today. Go out, make something happen, and we'll see you all at the top. Bye, everybody.